can't individually rescue the world, but everybody can play a part in that and do their own little bit. And it's up to every person to think how much they can do. And yes, maybe everybody needs to have their conscience pricked about that.
I spent some time in East Timor with a mate of mine, and one of the things with Norris, one of the things that struck me out of that was that there was like 2 normal houses that Westerners lived in. We lived, and my mate lived in one of them, and other Westerners lived in the other one. In between them was just 4 concrete walls, dirt floors, your canvas cots for beds, local family of 5, right? Mm. And they were some of the happiest people I'd ever met. Mm. And they had heaps less than what we had and what 90% of the world had. Mm. But I would argue that they were better off.
When everything is going okay, then it works to a degree. But then what happens, like, if 2 of their children get sick with malaria and they can't afford, like, a $5 medication for each child, they can only afford it for one child, and then they have to choose between a child to die, sort of thing, because they don't have access to health facilities and...
You could have absolutely nothing right now and go into the city, get clothes on your back, get food in your belly, whereas these people in Africa or wherever, they don't have those support networks. They couldn't do that. So it's completely different. Like, there will still always be hope in a first world country.
You're right, like the safety net kind of continues to be there if you're willing to...
That's a real challenge, like, being in a place where there is nothing and there is no hope of there being anything, and then
that's like
get out of that.
That was this family's story. They're in a quarry in India, and it's a man and his wife and his kids, and they're in this massive white quarry, banging on stones to make them smaller, day in, day out. And the reason that they're there is because they got a loan off the quarry manager that they will never be able to repay. Never. So you're right, like for him there's no hope. And recently he's shifted from one quarry to another quarry just because he got a different loan that seemed slightly less or whatever it was. But and his kids sit there in the stones and bang on them all day. That's pretty hopeless.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I wrestled with buying that car for like 3 or 4 months because
you shouldn't have done it.
I was like, I actually was wondering whether they had the expectation. My bosses had the expectation because I was going out of a private business into a consulting role, and I didn't know what the expectation was of whether they wanted me to have a European car or not. And I'm like, I just don't want to have one. I don't want to pay the money to have a European car, but I'm wondering, because they've got one, whether I should have one.
Ferrari, they have a good car. Ferrari's a good car.
Yeah. And like, I didn't even want to really get the car, and I've got this tussle between the car I'm driving on the weekend, and like, I'm happy to have an A to B, or the car that I have to go to work in, which is what you're saying, to actually earn the money that you earn. And if you don't, then you just won't be... if you turn up to a certain meeting in a certain car, they'll go... Unfortunately, in our society, they say men will buy the car they can afford. So you obviously, if you're driving a Datto 180B, means you're not getting paid much, which means you're an idiot, so I'm not actually going to listen to you in this meeting, which is a vicious circle.
The great comment about worldview is, if you go to another place, in which you have many times, and you see a different way of seeing the world, you come back and you look through the same glasses, and there's normally 3 things you can do. You can either do nothing, go crazy, or become a revolutionary, a radical.
I went to India when I was in year 12, India and Bangladesh, and that's just what happened. I just came back. Next day I was back, I went to a party, and there was a girl there, and she was eating pizza, and I'll never forget, she goes, "Can't just hide this for me because of the boy coming in I like." And she just chucked it behind her because she didn't want to see the boy seeing her eat because of her self-conscious issues. And it just grated at me. I had to leave, and I remember sitting in the gutter just crying, going, how can she be throwing out a piece of pizza because the boy might see her eating when I've just seen all these people hungry, starving, whatever. Not starving, but hungry. And then, so that's it. I'm selling everything. So I did, but then a week later I had to rebuy it all. So I gave it to Vinnie's or whatever, and then I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to the markets, get cheap stuff. So I did that. I got really attached to flea markets, and then all of a sudden I found myself becoming quite materialistic because I was at the markets every day, every weekend, finding cheap stuff to replace the good stuff that I'd given away, because I couldn't live with that tension of what I'd seen over there and what I had here. So then I had issues of materialism to deal with. So it just felt like, I don't know if there is an answer.
And I had this dream, and it woke me up because it was, and I remember lying in bed just not really understanding the dream. And it started off with, it showed me the universe and how our universe is working, where there's all this energy from things that are hot expelling the energy out to create equilibrium to things that are cold. So like a star, like our sun, will burn all its energy up, shoot all the heat out until it runs out of energy, then it'll explode. And it's kind of like this whole idea of getting the heat out. So you understand, like, heat, in the end they say, like, the universe will die because of heat entropy. So when we finally reach equilibrium, where there's no hot and cold, it's all the same temperature, everything dies because there's no more energy. And so the whole universe is based on that, where you get these big things, stars and planets, everything is expelling heat everywhere to colder areas, and it's just this big explosive, building universe, and that's how it works, and it's beautiful. And then I had this picture of the Earth, and we were all the people were these big clay jars, and we were filled with gold coins. And in some parts of the world there was lots of clay jars filled with gold coins, and they were slowly tipping out to all the other areas of the world where there were big clay jars that had nothing. And it was tipping out the money, the gold coins, into these, so, the rich tipping out to the poor. And I remember asking, why don't we start off like you said? Why don't we start off with all clay jars filled with the same amount of money? And then it kind of showed me the picture before of just heat entropy, of just nothing, just death. And then it showed the picture again of pouring it out, and it said it was more beautiful like this. It's more beautiful when the jars that have all the money tip out into the jars that don't have as much, because it's beautiful. And that was the reason.
The act of it.
Yeah. Same way the universe is beautiful the way it is because of what's happening.